All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you right there, just like me right here. Now, it's going to be controversy. I said I was going to steer away from politics, and then they sent me this Paul Stanley tweet, and I'm going to weigh in. Because, the culture war, it's just pure insanity, pure unadulterated insanity. And the rock community in general is very supportive and very on board with destroying the innocence of children. Prove me wrong. Tell me otherwise. And if this is about placating a child's belief system, think about that for a second. Children, they don't understand anything yet. I have a 9-year-old, and I have delicately started explaining to him what is going on in the world, and his mind cannot fully grasp even just sort of the gentle, rudimentary things that I'm trying to impart. And yet we're full steam ahead. Anyway, before I get going on that, look what I purchased. Freedom by Journey. Look at that. Folks, this is a really good album. Go back and listen to it. You're going to find that there are at least a half dozen songs that should have been on the radio. And it's Journey, you would think. Production-wise, I know people have some issues with it. Just listen to it on a good stereo. Go cruising in the car with it. And I think you're going to I know it took me a long time. I wasn't out of the box buying it. And by the way, the artwork on this actually looks better than the pictures I've seen, the way they did this. This isn't the coaster CD. This has kind of got that cardboard stuff, however you want to look at it, laminated cardboard. It's really good. So go get it. Journey's tour just wrapped up, and they'll be back, folks. They'll be back. That's my prediction. They've got a gig. They've got 2 gigs this month, and I think they've got another gig. So they've got 3 gigs coming. So Paul Stanley, he weighed in on the controversial topic of gender reassignment for kids. Paul Stanley, 71 years old, a guy, and people say this is very hypocritical. Here's a guy who wore makeup and high heels and everything most of his career. Paul Stanley was an adult when he made those choices. And he didn't advocate for going any further than that. The makeup thing was a cool thing in the 70s. And I'm not trying to say this is my band of choice or anything. I'm not that big of a Kiss fan, but nobody was encouraging anybody to do anything. It's one thing to put makeup on. It's another thing to say, hey, Johnny, how about some puberty blockers? I mean, what the heck? This is just crazy. But the rock media, for the most part, is on board with this stuff. And the way they word articles, it's always just Paul, his take is just weak on this. And let me read you what Paul Stanley said. Of course, they do a bunch of cut and paste journalism, because Paul's take can't just go out there and be heard. You got to have that dude from The Offspring. What the heck is the dude's name? I can't remember, but Noodles. He's out there. He's the guy that told his band that they had to go to CVS or Walgreens multiple times. And I think one of the guys said, no, I'm not going to do that. And he got fired. So Paul Stanley, by the way, didn't have he had similar takes to Noodles during the thingdemic, but on this issue, Paul Stanley is awake. He's not woke, but he's actually awake. This is what he says. Paul Stanley, there is a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game, and as though it's some sort of game. I think he left out a word. And then parents, in some cases, allow it. Yeah, the parents. It's insane. The parents are, I think the parents are maybe living vicariously in a very bizarre way through their children. There are individuals who, as adults, may decide, now listen, as adults, may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative, or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they are doing. With many children who have no real sense of sexuality or sexual experiences, caught up in the fun of using pronouns and saying what they identify as, some adults mistakenly confuse teaching acceptance with normalizing and encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those truly affected and has turned it into a sad and dangerous fad. Okay, I think that's kind of a mic drop moment, especially that last sentence. Give Paul Stanley credit here. This from a guy I know who wore makeup and high heels, and so he's a hypocrite. Again, he wasn't encouraging anybody to change anything. And he did say, hey, if this is a choice you want to make, if you're an adult, why are they, this is the question. And I know people come at me with conspiracy theories, and why are they so obsessed with the children? This is bizarre. This is dark. Okay. There's a book over my shoulder. You may see it in the shot here. It's right next to my classic radio, right in front of it. It's called The Return of the Gods. And I would encourage people to read it. Okay. In the 1960s, things shifted and we are reaping the void. There's a void and people are filling the void with something else. But I mean, okay, you had free love in the 60s and the 70s. You were, hey, just chilling out, maybe, I don't know, kind of leftover of the 60s, but nothing to that degree. In the 80s, it was decadence. It was, you know, the sky's the limit. In the 90s, it was rebellion from the 80s. And then after that, I'm not sure where we've gone, but, you know, we've been kind of in a holding pattern. And so, look, when someone says they want gender affirming care, that third word, actually the first word kind of makes sense, but then you've got affirming and then you've got care. Now, what I used to understand, I don't understand it anymore, is with the medical community, the Hippocratic Oath was what? Do no harm, right? Do no harm. So there are a bunch of people out there saying that this won't harm anybody. This is good for kids. Now, notice Paul Stanley focuses on the innocence of children. He also wants to know, okay, is this a fad? Because like 10 minutes ago, it wasn't a thing. Literally. I mean, it's just like, it's like 30% in some polls or surveys or whatever that I've read. 30% of high schoolers right now, kids in high school, are confused. They don't know what they are, or they've decided to be something else other than their, because they say, oh, the thing you were born with, that's, you were assigned that at birth. Huh? No, this is kind of like some truths are self-evident. If you're born with certain plumbing or lack thereof, or however you want to, I'm trying to be delicate here. That is a self-evident truth. There's biology and there's science, by the way, that back it up. People say, oh, you know, trust the science, right? All of a sudden now we're not going to trust the science. We're just going to chuck the science out because we live in the brave new world, the new frontier, boldly going where no human being should be going, all right? And there are other countries, by the way, that look at America right now and they say, okay, we're no, and that's actually affecting our relationships with countries around the world. Because seriously, I know this is going into a whole other area, But they're looking at the culture here and they're saying, okay, we need to protect our kids here. And that's the response. I have a 9-year-old son. Guess what? I'm going to protect him. I have gently started to explain to him what's going on out there, because there are certain things that he's seen that he doesn't understand, because they are feeding this stuff into things like YouTube short videos. It's like one after another. And you hear this as a parent, you're walking around and he's watching this, because we won't let him watch this without our supervision, because that's what parents should do. I'm not perfect at it, but and something happens and I go, whoa. All right, turn this off. I mean, this is a flood. There are channels that are covering this stuff nonstop, because it's like, the dam broke and the water and the filth, call it confusion, call it darkness. Again, return to the gods. So what's filling in? What's going in that, we used to kind of look toward something that's good, something that's decent, something that's pure, that's wholesome. Now look, along the way, if you're a rock and roll person, you may have laughed at or dabbled with or, casually looked into some of this stuff, but you weren't like, hey, I'm so serious that I'm going to dress up like Paul Stanley from now on, or Gene Simmons. And by the way, that's like Halloween. That's like Halloween. It's not permanent. You go out, you trick or treat, you get some candy, you come home. What did you dress up as? Most boys dressed up like superheroes. Most girls dressed up like a princess. Oh, those are stereotypes. You can't. What? Shut up. All right. Just at a certain point, just shut up. Okay. And by the way, kids most of the time will naturally move in that direction. But now we have adults putting up stop signs, detours, telling them things, confusing the crap out of them. And Paul Stanley mentions it here. It's confusing. Kids, they don't think this way. A 9-year-old doesn't think about their sexuality, but yet here we are with the school system. Can you teach them how to read? Can you teach them how to do critical thinking? Can you teach them not to be wards of the state? Can you? Or are you going to teach them how to rely on everybody and how to be in constant grievance mode? That's what we're doing in the education system. Oh, well, the government is here to help. Yeah, the government is here to foster and to encourage. This current government that's in there, they look at people like me who disagree with this as the enemy, as the problem. And I wonder, what country am I in? But yet, the frog in the boiling water, the water is boiling, people. It's boiling. And then you got the cut and paste journalists that come in and say, oh, well, the rock community, we fully embrace this. We think this is great. And Gene Simmons, or actually, this is Paul Stanley. I don't know what Gene's take is. Paul Stanley, he should, because he wore makeup, he can't weigh in on this. Huh? That gives him actually a little more credibility in this situation, because he's saying, look, puberty blockers over here, makeup playing a part over here. But again, Kiss took their makeup off, if you remember, during the 80s. That was kind of scary because we got to see what they really looked like. Some people, maybe they like that, which was weird because the 80s was kind of a decade where a lot of other bands were imitating Kiss from the 70s. But nobody was out there advocating, hey, Shania Twain says, I feel like a woman. Do you feel like a woman today? Well, might be time. Might be time to make the switch. No, this was like fun. It was entertainment. And anything that starts off in a maybe somewhat acceptable place. And by the way, a lot of people probably were turned off. They're like, I don't want to see these guys dressing up like women. That's not my thing. I'd rather go see a country guy or somebody who's comfortable and doesn't have to put on makeup or whatever. And again, I guess society has really begun to marginalize people who look at tradition and look at normal. Okay. And if you say normal right away, it's like, what a bigot you are. What a bigot. How can you say normal? That's bigoted. You don't understand. No, I understand I'm living in dystopia. I mean, the United States of dystopia. And to this dystopian world, which it stands, one nation under pharma, not individuals, with tyranny and, I don't know, mayhem for all. This is where we're at. By the way, if you use that, that's okay. That's just made it up on the fly here. So kudos to Paul Stanley. I mean, when he's right, he's right. This was good. This was, and by the way, this is pretty bold, but everybody's like, oh, what a take. Paul Stanley has no idea what he's talking about. Really? How does he have no idea? Anyone who's lived through childhood and has gone on to adulthood and has lived 71 years, and this is a thing too. People who are older, oh, they're just boomers. They're stuck in the past. They can't adapt to the new world. Guess what? Maybe they shouldn't adapt to the new world. Maybe somebody needs to push back a little bit and say, this is craziness. This is crazy. How is this any kind of care? The fact that they put the word care in there, like certain things they say are healthcare, like ending a life is healthcare. I don't know how that's healthcare. I don't know. Do no harm, ending a life. Wow. I mean, I'm baffled. I'm stunned. But here we are. Here we are. I mean, folks, like I said in a video I did about the channel, this is a hill that's worth at least making a stand on. If you're going to die, at least die defending humanity. Die defending the principles of humanity that have been in place since Genesis chapter 1, right? And I have nothing else to add to that. I mean, either you're pro-humanity or you're pro-insanity. And there are people who somehow feel as though the insane is good for humanity. And that, people like myself who agonize over this every single week when I look at the television or hear something, somebody sends me a link. And by the way, let me say this. Over the weekend, I just was inundated with messages. And I love my patrons, by the way, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And Patreon for $1 a month, $2 a month. You can also support via YouTube memberships. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy the communications between patrons and myself, but you can waste hours of your life on social media. And I tend to be a guy who likes to go out for a walk or likes to read a book or likes to spend time with my wife and my children. I do. And social media interrupts this to a point where you just don't have time. You can't do it all. And it's like 8:00 at night and what have you done? Well, I was answering all of these questions and posting this and doing the videos. And I mean, anyone, by the way, who says you don't have a real job, I used to think that I didn't have a real job. This job has become, it started out as like, hey, I'm going to post some videos. This has become a full-time 24-hour a day kind of thing because I have to monitor stuff. I have to think of content to come up with, and I have to do the content. And sometimes it happens at all hours of the day. I have a schedule I tend to try to keep to. But between that and all of the social media, and yeah, I'm going to open it up. And people, they keep harassing me about the comments on the channel. It's just not going to happen. Imagine I've got 300 plus patrons. Imagine the thousands of comments that are going to come in, and I have to deal with that. And people sending me messages about the comments. This is what happened before. Hey, did you hear what so-and-so said about you? No, I haven't been. And I am not going to monitor my channel 24 hours a day. I'm not going to do it. And that does hurt the algorithm if it's constant negativity, and I'm battling negativity on there. Doesn't help, believe it or not. People say, well, turn it on and stop talking about politics. No, I made a decision. I was going to just do these short, cute videos and so forth, but I don't know. It's not who I am. It's not how this channel has progressed. I would like to talk about music-oriented stuff. And this is Paul Stanley. This is his take. He's in a band, so that's the connection. You know, I shared at the beginning this fine album by Neil Sean, Jonathan Cain, Arnel Pineda, Narada Michael Walden, and Randy Jackson, who played on this. It's pretty cool stuff. So check it out, Freedom by Journey. Freedom is something I think we should shoot for. And freedom of expression. I heard the President of the United States say that he believes in freedom of speech. Right. Dystopia, people. We're living in the dystopian states. And I don't understand why people are so hell-bent on destroying the innocence of children in the name of some bizarre Franken-science idea. It just, we went from the thingdemic, and we've kind of progressed now into the transdemic, okay? Because that's where we are now. Thingdemic, transdemic, easy for me to say. And I don't know what's next. I don't know. The human brain, it just, mine anyway, is just overloaded with this stuff each and every day. And I probably shouldn't care, but I do, because I care about my kids and I care about the future of the world. So in any event, people, on that happy note, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Yep, Patreon for $1 a month for you patrons. I'm trying to get to the messages. I think I did get to most of them. But if I don't feel bad about it. Don't feel like I'm, slighting you. Think of, hey, Dave might be doing the laundry right now. He might be hanging out with his son. He might have, domestic things, chores he has to do, because I do those sorts of things. I'm not a movie star. I'm not a rock star. I'm not even a YouTube star. I am a C-list YouTuber at best, maybe even lower than that. My older son says, hey, you're like a C-lister, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with being a C-lister. Anyway, folks, see you soon.